Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Degenerates Podcast. I'm Tom.
I'm John.
And I'm Andrew.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So, John, you're a whore for attention. Tell me why you're an anti-vaxxer.
It's not vaccines in general. I don't have a problem with, measles, mumps, rubella, your standards. It's just I never took the COVID vaccine.
Not once.
No, I didn't feel I needed to. I know a lot of other people who did take it. And then I just feel that I'm glad I didn't. Just because there's a lot of people dropping dead around the world.
But, I mean, that tends to happen anyway. I don't think that's linked to the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, no, the amount of people having heart attacks and strokes aged between 20 and 40 who took the vaccine, yeah.
So you're saying if they didn't take the vaccine, they wouldn't have been having heart attacks and strokes?
Yes.
You genuinely believe it's a direct cause?
I think there's a definite link, yeah. Doctors and people who had their entire careers destroyed by Big Pharma and the industry for speaking out about it. So there is that, yeah. It's not, put it this way, it's something that if it came out, the side effects, the blood clots, things like that, the lawsuits would be legendary. And that's the reason they don't go into it, because they know it would make was it thalidomide? Was it the people who were affected by the drug that women took during pregnancy that were born without arms and legs? It would make the lawsuits for that look tiny by comparison. So it's easier to say, conspiracy theory, and scream at them.
So
But I remember there is a lot of conspiracy theories about that, though. Like
I remember
microchips being
that's what I was going to say. The main one was that Bill Gates was using the coronavirus vaccine to inject microchips into people
to track
them and
when somebody argued that to me, I was like,
actually serious?
I was like, you have a mobile phone.
Yeah, but this is the problem with it.
Your phone can track you further, more high-tech ways than...
Yeah, but this is the problem. When you have something that there's a kernel of truth to it, not to that, but this is what I mean. When I'm talking about the medical side effects of a drug that wasn't even properly tested,
right.
The idea, because idiots out there talked about microchips and, what was it, the masts... The mobile phone, the 5G masts. Yeah. Because you've got people talking about that absolute shite, it kind of all gets thrown in the same bath. This is what annoys me about the whole conspiracy theory thing, because a very plausible, quite frankly, very believable theory is thrown in the same bath of Elvis lives and microchips.
So do you think it was because the reason why you chose not to take the COVID vaccine was... because it was so quick? Because so I would probably think that they've skipped certain safety rules, but from what I remember, it was to do with the mRNA. I might be completely wrong there, but it was they were able to select a certain protein within the coronavirus, and create the vaccine from that. And the technology just happened to exist at that point. It was a new technology. Do you think because it was so new and slightly untested, that's why you...
No, there was two things that put me off. First of all, anything the government or the media say en masse as this is what you must do, please do this, instantly has alarm bells ringing in my head. It always has done. I don't trust government.
Yeah.
I don't trust medical institutions in terms of people like Chris Whitty and that, who, like, is he a politician? Is he a doctor? What is he? Oh, he's both. Right, well then I don't trust him. And also with regard the testing of it, it's a case of, first of all, they said, oh yeah, get the jab. Not only will it make you safe, but others around you will be safe. And then 2 months later, yeah, that's not true. But get it anyway because, and also get the boosters every year. And they just kept changing it as time went on. Yes. And it was almost like, it's almost like they don't know what they're doing.
That whole thing of it will make your like the people around you say.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I got it, because where I lived at the time, I was at home with my mum and my sister, and both of them were in the category 1. Remember how they categorised everyone as like, oh, you got this, you got that, you're high risk.
Yeah.
So both of them were classified as like the category 1. So I was working at an airport, so I'm seeing a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let me get this jab just in case, so to help protect them, because I'm living with them. Let's not fucking bring it into the household.
Yeah.
I got mine, and I remember talking to you about this. The reason I got mine was because I had my text to say you need to come in and get your jab before my parents. And the reason I think that was because years ago I had bronchitis. So I thought, well,
I got bronchitis.
I thought, Christ, if they texted me before then,
Nobody got time for that.
and I remember going.
Somebody got that.
I actually remember queuing up with all the people, and they're all like OAPs, and I'm thinking, I was the only young-ish person there, and I was thinking, Christ, that must be like bad if I'm if I'm being selected first. So
I think another thing about COVID is I find, and this is purely anecdotal as most things are with religious, but a good case point, I think, not maybe as the country as a whole, but this seems to have happened to a hell of a lot of people's families. Now, first of all, my mother, she was like, right, no one's visiting me or coming in my house unless they get the vaccine. So I thought, right, I'm definitely not getting it. So this was going on, and my sister was telling me, first of all, she wanted me to get it. And she was going on. Anyway, fast forward a year, not even a year. My mother's saying that she regrets getting it, that she's had health problems and other things that she never had before cropping up. And then she's saying, oh, I wish I didn't get it. And literally 8 to 9 months previous, she said, you're not coming around here if you haven't had it. And then she contacted me and she goes, yeah, I wish I didn't get it.
But
There's a lot of people. There was a lot of buyer's remorse with some people. That's all I'll say.
Do you not think, though, that potentially is the fact that they've caught COVID?
Yeah, so they've got was it long COVID they were calling
it? Yeah, now this is
caught...
interesting. Tell me about long COVID, because that person we used to work with that you didn't get on with in the tabbing department.
There's many.
There was many, but the person we used to work with who was scared of balloons. You remember him?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yes. Well,
I have no idea.
He kept going on and on about long COVID. Now he had it, and his mother had it, and it had all these long. And long COVID to me,
it was just a hypochondriac.
Yes, but to me it sounded incredibly vague. Apparently, long COVID was linked to everything from strokes, long-term breathing difficulties, heart conditions. Sounded like it was whatever people wanted it to be was long COVID.
Yeah, I mean, the most that I heard, you heard like the horror stories of 24-year-old man, perfectly healthy and fit, catches COVID and now is on oxygen for the rest of his life.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that kind of long COVID that you hear of.
Yeah.
But how rare was those cases?
Oh, it was like 1 in 1,000, or even less than that. And you can't almost guarantee that they can even be properly linked. So
I think that like a couple of months after having it, I would say a good 6 months, you still feel like crap.
Yeah,
you're not 100%.
I tell you,
for example, and so I can with bronchitis, I didn't realise how bad I was until I got better, and I was
I've
months
never had it.
and
You
months
don't
and
really
months.
hear of it. What is bronchitis? Is it like a lung thing?
Yeah.
What does it do?
Well, it's like a bad cold cough. Essentially,
is it fluid on the lungs?
Kind of, yeah.
So a bit like pneumonia kind of thing.
Yeah, not quite, but then, but because it's your lungs, you're essentially got no energy because you're not taking
Can't
any
get the
off.
oxygen into your blood. So
And it really was like I think 4 or 5 months, maybe even 6 months after I'd gotten the antibiotics and all that kind of stuff. That I felt better, and I thought, oh Christ, I really was like just going up the shop, up the road,
the road
was like I'd sleep for an hour, 2 hours after that.
And
Shit.
just as an aside, going into talking about other things which stood out to me at the time, there was an English retired heart surgeon called Dr. John Campbell, who, when it all first
Dr.
started...
Richard Campbell.
No. When it first started, he was trying to get people... trying to get, if you need the vax, if you have underlying health conditions, this is serious. And he was on the BBC and he was interviewed about stuff. And his YouTube channel now is huge, and people started watching him during COVID. But basically, his channel has changed a lot, and then he started doing a lot of research into the phenomenon in the countries which really wholeheartedly went full on with the vaccine. And he started examining, and he's now been looking at the rise in what they call unexpected deaths. Mm-hmm. In other words, young people having strokes and heart attacks in the last 5 years has shot up. It's spiked. And he started doing research into it. All of a sudden, he's not invited on news programs anymore. He's labelled a conspiracy theorist. Even though he's a heart surgeon, he's had lots of interviews with other top leading medical in both France, Australia, and Japan. And they've all done the same research. And he said himself, he has to be very careful what he says, because otherwise YouTube will strike him.
Yeah.
But he's basically said on there that for people trying to put two and two together, he said, we are talking about the reason this is such a contentious subject. He said, because we are talking about the companies which developed certain vaccines, he said, facing the biggest lawsuit, he said, possibly in medical history. That is why. He says, if you look at it like that, he says, you can understand why they're very nervous about it. But John Campbell was someone who went from get the vaccine to do what you think is right to, if the government's saying it, treat it with a grain of salt.
Oh. And
he did. He went full round on it.
Right. See, so with the anti-vaccine thing,
because it's not just the COVID jab, is it?
No. I mean, that's just John's personal.
Yeah, there's people out there that believe that.
Oh, there's some stupid beliefs like vaccines for your kids will lead to autism and things like that.
It's all linked towards
I don't believe that.
They won't get their kids vaccine.
That was because of a doctor who got struck off in the end. He basically said that I think it's measles, mumps, and rubella.
Yeah, the MMR jab.
It gives you a child
a higher risk
of
developing autism.
And it was proven wrong. He was struck off, but this, message still permeates today. People still buy into it to the point where there's actually...
Because it's a classic modern medical fear thing, isn't it?
There's a resurgence of measles, right? And this is the annoying thing, is that those people who choose to not get their kids vaccinated, or even themselves vaccinated, when they get measles, and they will, they then can give it to us, who have been vaccinated.
This is something.
Even if you've had the vaccine.
This is something that I do really want to make clear. The term anti-vax, again, a bit like conspiracy theory, is a ludicrous umbrella term where it's, you're against all vaccines. No.
Yeah.
I think you'll find that MMR, polio, tetanus, smallpox, I think you'll find they're pretty vital. And that there is no side effect. There is a side effect to not taking it. That horrific disease and or death. So they are essential. It's just that if someone is very wary or doesn't want the COVID jab, you want smallpox, do you? No, I'm not against vaccines. There's a difference. But I think that was a way that I think some of the people who thought the same as me were shut down by saying, you don't like any vaccine. That's not what I'm saying. I just wanted to clarify.
Started lumping everyone together.
Yes, because it destroys your argument and credibility.
Yeah. So now you're an anti-vaxxer.
You want babies to get measles? No, I don't. Yeah. I thought it was quite easy for them to do.
There's so many different types of vaccines out there. How can you prove that each one is going to give you this thing?
Well, exactly. And the interesting, one of the things I do find fascinating as someone who has eczema all my life, and you get food allergies and that. And I know he's a controversial figure. We talked about him at work, but RFK Jr. in America who is now the...
You did promise to do the voice as well.
I can't do it as well as Tim Dillon, but they're poisoning the milk. He said, "You're babies." But it's he basically he's got some very good theories and ideas, because he had kids who are now the same age as me, and he wanted to know why since the 1970s onwards there's been an explosion in things like skin conditions, food allergies, autism, dyslexia, ADHD. And he was going into OCD, and he was going into this. And now I think it's what we were saying, Andrew. Mm-hmm. There may very well be a cause that's similar to some of them, but I think people who are looking for a magic bullet explanation that's definitely what caused a rise in eczema and autism.
Oh, so you
I don't think that's going to be found
by September. He'll.
I think, because apparently he's told President Trump that by September, him and his team will have almost conclusive evidence, to basically say this is what's caused the autism.
The thing is, he's not going to find that one magic bullet.
No.
It's going to be a case of, so maybe a little bit from this one,
and
a little bit from that one, combined with the right genetics.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, that's a huge part. Genetics is a huge part.
But here's the polio vaccine, bang, autism.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing.
Exactly.
When you're saying about if you're lumping in the COVID vaccine and any vaccine like MMR, and
they
all have contraindications for people, depending on your genetics.
Oh yeah.
It's the same as when it's exactly the same of when people caught it. You had people just go like that, and then other people who got it and nothing happened.
And I know exactly when we first. One of the first things you said when you were talking, well, people die all the time. Yeah, they do. But what I'm saying is, some of those people, young people in the 20s and 30s who've had heart attacks, strokes, and blood clots, would some of them have developed that anyway? Yeah, absolutely. But I find it interesting that the stats show a huge rise in the last 5 years. What happened 5 years ago? That's the thing that my head says, because I look at patterns in the chaos, and that jumps out at me. I'm not saying all those people wouldn't have developed issues.
Yeah,
I just find it odd when I'm reading about mountain bikers, trial champions, marathon runners, and footballers in the 20s dropping dead. Kind of jumps out at me. I'm not saying that wouldn't have happened. I'm just thinking, okay, but why?
It could also be another
because it's not happening. Just quickly, it's not happening in countries which didn't have mass rollouts of a certain vaccine.
But it might still be happening, but it might not be happening to the...
Or it's not recorded.
Exactly, it's not recorded, or it's not happening to the higher profile type of people that is it being recorded.
Do you remember the meme during COVID, though, when whatever it was that someone died of, it was COVID related?
Yeah.
I remember the picture of someone being killed by a shark, and it was COVID death.
Yeah. Everything, doesn't matter what it was, everything was just bang COVID.
Yeah.
They could have died of a heart attack caused by COVID. He had a stroke caused by COVID.
I think my eczema was COVID related. I think it was basically, it had waited. I think that was the very first COVID patient in 1983, and I think basically it just waited in the form of my eczema.
It stayed dormant, your patients...
Yeah, and my eczema had spread to a lab in China, which basically then spread it to the world.
They've taken a sample of it.
Yeah.
And they were
I think they took a handful of dry skin cells that they found in the liquids department, and they basically took that to China and full-blown COVID.
Full-blown.
Patient zero.
Yeah. But this is the thing, I remember when it comes back to like autism and things linked to vaccines and stuff. I remember when my partner was pregnant with our eldest, it was quite early on, and it was like 24 weeks. She was having some complications. They thought she was going into labour early. So what they did is they gave her this injection. Before they gave it to her, they said, there's this injection, I can't remember the name of it, but they said there's links from this injection and increased chances of a child having autism. But this injection was to help bring out, to bring on the development of the lungs. So you're going to make me choose whether my child's going to be able to breathe or be autistic. It's like, let them breathe. End of the day, it is, you can't put a price or a caveat on something like that. It's, even if it is proven to be an increased
Yeah,
form
but, I
of,
mean, I suppose
you can possibly get autism
then,
or these other conditions. End of the day, life goes on.
yeah.
If you need this thing to be able to live a proper life, to not get these diseases and be able to have your lungs develop properly or all of these other little things, I'd take the autism.
But then,
obviously, there's
you've got
levels
the
of
side.
autism.
You've got the side thing of like a religious belief as well.
Yeah, there's also the very extreme cultist type religious lot that are like, oh, this is, you can't have any other.
It would be
certain
God's
things.
will to.
It's God's will to make my child this way, or
Yeah.
I don't agree. There's a very strange type. Usually Americans.
Well, yeah, the Bible Belt.
Yeah, the
in
Bible
America.
Belt. They're like, it's God's will. They don't believe in any medicine.
No,
right?
yeah.
That's Jehovah's
yes.
Witness.
Yes.
Is it Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah.
No, surely they do because they.
No, they don't. They don't believe in transfusions and.
Oh, like blood transfusion. Oh, right, got you. Yeah.
And
that's very selective, isn't it? So all the medical procedures.
Very selective.
Well, so what? I don't remember reading a passage, and I've never read it, to be fair. But I don't remember hearing about any passage in the Bible that mentions, thou shalt not have a blood transfusion.
But they weren't a thing back then, so because they're not a thing.
But but God knows everything.
What's the thing with the Amish where they don't, their technology stops at a certain point?
Yeah.
They have telephones in the house, old school telephones.
Yeah.
Landlines, but only to be used in emergencies.
Right.
But that's it. In terms of technology, everything predates.
So fast.
It's early 20th century max.
It's a religion. Yeah.
What is the religion? Is it
Amish
is the religion?
Because the idea is that technology and all its accoutrements and comforts has taken man away from what he was supposed to be. Yeah, they are closer to God.
To God, yeah.
Right, got you.
But I mean, they could have a point to a certain degree.
Yeah, I think they do. In terms of social media and a lot of modern things. Ironically, as someone who was not religious in the slightest, as much as I love my modern conveniences, my video games and my films, have we reached a point where that we've got kids staring 24 hours at screens? You got lazy parents basically bringing their kids up. Oh, sit in front of YouTube, sit in front of a tablet. That shit, it has gone too far.
We were discussing this at work about the artificial ADHD compared to the genetic ADHD.
Right, yeah.
Which is, screen doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Not retaining any information because it's not in a little soundbite.
Yeah.
Me and Terry were talking about that.
Yeah. Whereas you've got people who, like us, who.
Well, I'm not diagnosed with it, but I've got it.
Right. Well, it just is a thing I can't help.
I didn't know about your OCD-ness.
Well, that isn't diagnosed, but
it's not diagnosed. I think there's a lot of things you could go to a psychiatrist, and probably any normal person could get diagnosed with some kind.
That's why I'm dubious about
OCD,
some things.
Everybody's on the spectrum.
There is levels of it. Like it's like I've got Tourette's, right?
Yeah.
But there's levels of it. I'm not running up the street like you said, shouting biscuits.
Although I have seen you do that.
Yeah,
but it's only when the biscuit van goes.
When I walk past the McVitie's factory. Some of you may have noticed at home watching the ticks and things like that, but there's levels of it. A lot of people just think it's like. Do you remember years and years ago on Big Brother when Big Brother was proper Big Brother?
Nasty Nick.
Yeah, and you had Pete. Was it Pete?
Doherty?
No. It was the normal Big Brother. There was a gentleman on there that had verbal Tourette's. And for years and years and years, everyone was like, "Oh, that's Tourette's.
Yeah.
It's swearing. It's
that's right. That's right.
And that's all it is. And then you grow up, and even I was growing up like thinking that's.
I thought that.
I've got Tourette's. I've got other thing.
I thought that
Tourette's is shouting at people.
It was yes, because there was a famous
bombing an airport.
There was a famous documentary. I think it was about 20 years ago. Might have been older than that, whereby basically it was a case of
That's a trigger.
I think it was called Tourette's and Me, and it was basically following several families, and one of them was this kid, and it was comedy gold to me because I'm watching it, and there's a kid sitting there, and it's literally like fuck. You know, and his sister would be sitting on the table, and she's trying not to laugh at him, and she goes, "Don't laugh at him, he can't help it." And he goes, "Pass the fucking salt," and all like that, and they just like handed to him, and I was like in stitches, and I realised he couldn't help it. But I associated Tourette's with random spontaneous swearing.
A lot of people did
instead of muscle spasms and tics.
No, it's a lot of the time. That's actually the rarer form of it.
Interesting.
There was
a
Channel
lot more
4.
common to have the physical Tourette's rather than
muscle spasms and things.
On Channel 4 there was what do they call the people, announcers in between the shows, and I think it was on E4, and there was a woman who used to do the announcements for the next show, and she had Tourette's because and the first time I heard it I thought they were playing audio over what she was saying. So she was announcing the program, and this is why I say biscuits, because she used to go biscuits.
Oh really?
Yeah. And like,
I mean, there's some jobs you
Really?
probably shouldn't.
yeah, no, I thought it was great. I thought it was brilliant because
but you wouldn't want a newsreader.
No.
Day in the news: an earthquake has killed 10,000 people, and biscuits.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that'd have been funny if Hugh Edwards had it. Reading out the news today we announced the sad passing of Queen Elizabeth. 17-year-old boys. Sad passing of Queen Elizabeth. That would have been. I'd have watched the shit out of that.
But yeah, I think with you, because you're now on that medication, aren't you, to try and...
I'm now on a lovely antipsychotic medication. Which,
interesting.
Yeah, but it's what it does is...
It's done nothing for the psychosis.
It does nothing for the psychosis. I'm still mad! But, it basically controls the OCD side of it, which is the compulsion to do
punch
the tick.
yourself.
Well, that was the main thing. At one point I popped my nose. I was bleeding from my nose because the tick was so bad. You can't stop it. My forehead was green and yellow, bruised.
This is really interesting because I've thought about all three of us combined, all the different things that we've grown up with, all the conditions we have, all the things that are diagnosed, undiagnosed, labelled, unlabelled.
Yeah.
It's almost like as a microcosm. If you bear in mind our ages, we're a similar age, you're younger, but
a lot younger.
It kind of... It is interesting though, because does it not go back to what we were saying between there being an explosion of things supposedly in the last 30, 40, possibly even 50 years?
Well, I think we were discussing...
I'm not saying they didn't exist in the past.
Yeah.
It meant that they weren't... Maybe they were just undiagnosed. But what I'm saying is there seems to be a hell of a lot compared to, say, in the decades around the early to mid 20th century. You never heard of it.
Well, we were saying about you've either got the fact that people they're not recording it, they didn't know, they're not aware of it.
You got to think back in say 100 years ago, someone with my condition probably would have been fucking sectioned.
Yeah,
I probably would have been in a psych ward, and they're like, "Oh, we'll give you a bit of electrotherapy to try and stop the random But then you've also got the environmental stuff, which we were discussing. Because you were on about RFK discovering the silver bullet of autism.
Well, I mean, even like I say, even Trump was highly skeptical. You could tell. He said, "Wow, if you can do that."
But if you think when, nice.
I beg your pardon.
There's always one, isn't there?
There's always one. Turn your phones off.
I beg your pardon.
Crying out if you answer it. Hello, live on Channel 4. Please do not swear.
So there was.
I'm slowly melting into this sofa.
Yeah. When we were talking about the RFK stuff, saying that, I said to you that I think just after the war is when they started using. Pesticides.
Yeah, I've read about there's a possible pesticides is a big possibility. They reckon.
Yeah,
well,
100%.
There's on our food, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
because
the
obviously,
pesticides, what they spray on the crops to stop obviously the pests.
yeah.
Another
stuff,
one
you
is
think
GM-related products.
Yeah, I mean, all that kind of. I don't see the GM stuff. I don't buy into as much
What's the
because
GM
that's
stuff?
Genetically modified crops
Oh, right,
and
okay.
things.
what they do
At
there.
school, we learnt about them as Frankenstein foods.
Yeah, but what they do,
Yeah.
what they do there is they're just limiting the life cycle. So, because then you've got to buy the seeds from them again.
Right, so
Right.
isn't it
Which-
like it grows faster and thicker?
Which,
Yeah.
a conspiracy theory hat on, is also one of the reasons people are very dubious about Bill Gates.
Right.
Because of his mass buy-up of agricultural land, selling certain seeds where the farmers have to buy it. If you don't, something's going to happen to your crops, mysteriously.
But they do
That-
that anyway.
No,
That's what that
but,
is.
but-
You've got one field.
yeah, but you have to
with,
question
say,
why he's buying up mass.
You've got one
plots of
field
land.
which is genetically
can.
modified, and
Because
then
he
you've
can
got
control the food supply.
Are you an anti-Bill Gates kind of guy?
I don't trust the
I
guy.
think that's the next episode. That one.
That'll be the next episode.
Yeah, I don't trust
Bill
the
Gates
guy.
So-
and why he's bad.
Anyway, pesticides,
Yeah.
herbicides, insecticides, all the sides.
Suicide?
Basically, yeah, they're basically
Matricide.
getting into your
Patricide.
food. And then you can't get away from it because if you have any waste vegetables, you feed it to the livestock. The livestock then eat it, so it's in your meat, it's in your fish,
It's in everything.
because it's getting
Mad
into
cow
the water.
disease.
So all these things potentially could be leading on to the conditions that but then it could be a double whammy of the fact that there's more knowledge of it. There's recording it.
I think it's a combination of the both. I think a lot of it is the fact that certain things were undiagnosed. As you say, a lot of people would have been institutionalized, put in homes.
Mhm.
Secondly, it's something we're doing that we've been doing relatively recently over the decades with side effects that we haven't fully understood.
Yeah,
It's a combination of the
But
both,
it's
I
also,
think.
I think it's also a combination of how we understand the brain works has come along significantly in the last 30 to 40 years. So, and
True.
being able to map the brain and how it does certain things, and psychologists and psychiatrists understanding of how emotions work and how you can create these tests for autism, ADHD, things like this, to actually show, because it would have been about, you look at films like Rain Man, when did that come out? When did that come out? Yeah. I'm a good driver.
In the 80...
That came out in the 80s.
It's an 80s film, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not something that randomly popped up. The autism's been a thing for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's just no one really.
Well, you had
knew
to-
about
I think
it.
they're talking
What was
more
it?
about the explosion of people being diagnosed with it.
Yeah.
Whereas
Because I think it's now something that's easier to diagnose because they understand that there's a spectrum of it. Not everyone is Dustin Hoffman. In Rain Man, some people are,
But still not diagnosed.
not diagnosed, but a little bit of the tism just on the side.
Touch of the tism. What is it Theo Von
a
Theo
touch
Von
of the
said?
tism.
It was on about a kid in the class who was wearing a sheet or something. And then he goes, he's just got a touch of the tism.
Yeah.
But, we've kind of gone off the subject of anti-vaccine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, slightly.
Well, we have and we haven't. I think
I
that
think
they're
it's
talking.
It's what can cause. Are vaccines the root cause?
Yes, well, the reason we
of
went
these
off
kinds
is
of conditions.
yes,
Obviously, this is the main reason a lot of people are anti-vaxxers.
because they believe there's a direct link. I don't think there's a direct link. I think if anything, there's a very small secondary side effect.
I think, like I said before, I think it's a case of so this specific vaccine linked with this food that you ate, your parents' DNA, your genetic genome,
Makeup.
and all of these other little things combined
Yeah.
creates the perfect little storm of autism
Right.
Well,
or ADHD or all of the above.
talking
it's-
about autism as well, one of my favourite books, Why We Sleep, The Science of Sleep.
Oh, that's a good book.
One of the chapters in that where he's talking about the serious ill health side effects of sleeping tablets. And he's saying that it's not, because basically when you need REM sleep, proper deep sleep, tablets don't put you to sleep; they tranquilize you. There's a difference.
Yeah.
It's no different from when you're drunk.
I do remember.
But the reason I'm
sorry, go on.
So yeah, the only reason I mentioned that was because there's a definite link. It's they haven't. It's not like it's not been published around the world, but there is now a definite link between women who are pregnant on sleeping tablets and autism. There is a definite link there.
Right.
Which I thought that was interesting. That there's a lot of other things they're not sure about, but if you a pregnant woman has to be told by a doctor, I don't recommend sleeping tablets.
Yeah. Right.
I just going back to that book, Why We Sleep. I remember reading it and thinking, because I think you read it about the same time as me.
It scared the hell out of me.
And I was just like, oh crap, I'm so screwed.
Yes, the same.
Because the lack of sleep, you're in a constant deficit. And
and you can never make it
Is
back.
that 3 days without sleep can turn you clinically insane?
No,
or is that just like a meme that I saw one day? And
it's an urban legend, but it does eventually drive you insane. It kills you.
No,
basically,
your body, you'll start to your organs.
The longest I've been awake is 3 days, and
that explains a lot.
What you do see after 3 days is you will start hallucinating. You'll start seeing things. It's like a waking dream. Like
Why couldn't you sleep, John? Why couldn't you sleep?
Oh, yeah, stimulants. But over a course of several nights, self-inflicted. But no, at this point, I started thinking, right, I need to go to sleep because I was seeing out the corner of my eye, and then actually I was looking down the corridor.
Was you seeing?
Figures, people.
So you started
but not. I was going to say not fully. It was like seeing ghosts, and I suddenly thought, right, it was genuinely scaring me, and I thought, I'm going to bed now. I'm going to go to sleep now, and I crashed for 16 hours straight.
Wow, now that's a sleep.
And that book is great.
Yeah.
But if you're having difficulty sleeping, don't listen to it on Audible because you'll lay there going, dementia, cancer. It's awful.
Does it essentially tell you that if you don't sleep, you're going to get all of these things?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll definitely give that a listen.
There's one of the things is night shift workers.
Yeah.
Their life expectancy is much less.
People like me and you, the night owls.
Yeah.
Because of modern society.
Well, not so much anymore because children.
Yeah. Well, you basically. I used to run on 4 hours sleep, if that, and that was for years.
Well, night owls, like the book says, we've been ostracised and often told that we're lazy and all the rest of it. It's not. It's a genetic reason that you have larks and owls, and it goes into it in the book where he talks about basically when we were evolving, it made sense for the safety of the group to have two different types of people.
Like the night watch.
Yes, exactly.
Right,
and I think that's why we evolved. Some people they go to bed early and they get up early, and then you got people who go to bed late and get up late, and it was necessary to protect the group,
awake,
right?
Which makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and it's the same with the OAPs as well. All the older people, that they nap in the day and they are awake a lot in the night.
Yeah.
Same reason was and you naturally, your circadian rhythm naturally changes. I've noticed because I actually now aren't as much of a night owl as I used to be. I wake up a lot earlier than so today I got up at 7, whereas before I would have been up.
You still didn't reply to my text.
12. 2 o'clock. When?
I would agree with that. I
just ignored you. No, I was in the shower.
If it's utterly natural and it's just me without the effect of alcohol or any stimulants, which admittedly that's a rare day, but if that is the case where it's just a natural day, I'm like that now, where I'm getting tired earlier.
But because I think we're, older.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like the last 2 days.
Oh yes, it'll be age related.
It's a circadian rhythm are changing.
The last 2 days, I've started getting tired at like 8 o'clock, 8, 9 o'clock, and I'm gone.
Yeah, and you can't claim that because you've done hard work and that, is it?
No, I can.
Yeah, you say he's
young. Unlike some people.
Should
I get into the reason to why you booked a day off work yesterday?
But
I think I shouldn't I, John?
No, I think you shouldn't.
Do you reckon I shouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
So his argument is it's strange that you're tired because he's saying that you don't work and you're young.
Well, to be fair, like he was nodding off a lot, and I kept
I was doing this a lot more previously because it turns out, among the list of many other things, I also have sleep apnea. Thank you to being fat. Since I've had the they sent me out the CPAP machine and whatnot. I'm on the mask and all that jazz. I look like an elephant at night, more so than usual. But I've noticed since that I've been a lot more awake and a lot less tired. But obviously, you still get the issue of getting to sleep and staying asleep when you are asleep,
with
and
a thing
having
on
that
your face
actual
as well.
rest. And what's that?
With a thing on your face.
Well,
as well.
yeah. I mean, at this point, I'm used to it.
Yeah.
But I'm still not, like, my body isn't used to, like, say I get up at like 5 a.m. for work every day.
Yeah, I know a guy.
Body's
I know a guy who with bad snoring and he was having terrible sleep, and he got one of them. And he got seriously ill, and he got a really bad bacterial infection. Anyway, after a lot of figuring it out, the doctor found out that the reason being was that these oxygen masks that wasn't being cleaned properly, and it was infected. You know, like you get yeast growths and things like that.
Yeah.
And he started breathing this crap in, and
So
it really gave him a bad infection.
That's interesting. There was 2 books that I read maybe last year. The one was Why We Sleep, and the other one was called Breathe. And
breathe or breathe?
Breathe.
Oh.
Yes.
And it was maybe 2 years ago. And I remember being at work and having to go to the doctors because I was getting coughs all the time, and they actually x-rayed my chest to see if I'd got anything going on. And it was because I used to be a smoker, I'd learned to breathe through my mouth instead of breathing through my nose.
I knew you were a mouth breather.
And then so I was a mouth breather, and then I was having to. Once I read this book, I read it particularly because I was getting these coughs all the time. It taught me that actually you're supposed to breathe through your nose because you're filtering.
Yeah. That's why you have the
all
nose
the air. Yeah. And obviously with the sleep apnea thing, if you've got the mouthpiece over and you got the, if he's snoring, he's breathing that unfiltered straight in. That will be why he's getting that bacterial infection instead of going through his nose.
Well, they changed it now because the one that I have is just on the nose. It's not on the mouth. It's just the nose, and it just blows straight through your nose.
Right.
So that's.
But I swear, some people, like I can think of a couple of family members. I swear, some people just don't breathe through their nose at all. When they're asleep, it resembles a corpse.
Well, a lot of people
the mouth's wide open.
Tape the lips now, don't they?
There's that mouth tape stuff.
Yeah, but I swear, with some people, if their nose was properly blocked up, they'd probably
suffocate.
Yeah, because they can't breathe through their nose. I've noticed. Also, I've noticed the same people if they have to hold their breath, like maybe they're going underwater or something like that.
Do you find that you breathe through your mouth a lot because your nose is blocked?
No.
Oh.
Which is
allergies.
Why do you ask?
Because of his allergies.
Because your allergies. Yeah.
But now no, it's very clear, which is remarkable. No, I take the point. But yeah, I find that some of those people who have difficulty breathing through the nose, they can't hold the breath for very long at all, max 30 seconds, and they're going, and I'm like, Jesus, that's not good.
So
is that because some people? Do you think some people just have very narrow nasal passages, or maybe?
Yeah, I think my twin brother, he had a deviated
my sister had that. She had the operation.
He's just had it done because
I can hold my breath for just over a minute.
That apparently was my fault because I broke his nose.
Brotherly love,
Yeah. But he for years complained about these throat infections and stuff, and then he finally did something and went to the doctors, and they said, yeah, well, what's it? And just not the mind. But I haven't asked him yet whether he's had an impact from that, whether it's a benefit or not. I should imagine it's a benefit.
And it's your fault, Andrew.
It's my fault. Well, it's his fault,
entirely your
really.
fault.
Oh yeah, that's true. He made you punch him and break his nose.
He did. He broke a cardinal rule. You don't switch a game off when somebody's winning.
Yeah.
I thought the golden rule was you don't go full R-word.
You don't full what?
You don't go full R-word.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the rules, isn't it? Never do that.
Oh, good old simple Jack.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got way off anti-vaccine. My thing with anti-vaccine
We haven't.
is the psychology behind it, the actual thinking.
I love your exasperated sighs. Before you say something, which tells you instantly telegraphs what he thinks about the subject.
That's me trying to be. That's my.
How
do I say this diplomatically?
How can I say this without falling?
Say it without being a dick. Say it without being a dick.
Try to be nice.
Try to be nice. Try to be understanding.
But yeah, I do. I'm interested in the psychology behind it, and this is why when we're talking about COVID vaccines, that I can kind of get the knowledge I'm seeking from you, even though you are not an anti-vaxxer in general.
No, absolutely not.
I try to understand why you won't take one, but you'll take another kind of thing.
But because of all the reasons I went into, the furore and extreme...
There's other people who...
hysterical insanity that surrounded one versus the others.
Yeah, but then you've also got the ones which are more extreme that think why they don't give either their children...
Well, put it this way. When I was a kid, these vaccines, you accepted, you understood it.
Yeah.
You get that because we've eradicated these diseases. You get the jab for it. Nothing when I was a kid was anything like the sheer hysteria. Now look, I realise that for people with underlying conditions, the obese, people with breathing difficulties, I get that it was dangerous to some people. But my argument is that so's flu.
Do you think it's an age thing though as well? Like say
people were acting like it was Spanish
Tom's
flu.
generation is more. I don't know. I don't know the data, so I can't. I'm just thinking out loud here, but basically, Tom's generation hasn't seen. There were remnants of people who weren't vaccinated when we were younger. We saw those people, so we understood the consequences of not having the vaccines, right? Whereas Tom's generation...
On a personal level, I don't know...
I would argue that we're technically the same generation.
Yeah, okay.
I'm say that...
on the latter end of that generation.
Yeah, I think he is a very late millennial.
I was born in 96, and 96 is the last accepted year that...
It is. It's late millennial. Me and Andrew are very early millennials. Yeah. There is a big...
Very early.
We're the same generation, mate.
Okay.
We're almost Gen X.
You're just a lot older than I am.
Yeah, we're almost Gen X.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think my older brother's just.
That reminds me. My dad was pleased because he's heard me going on and complain about the boomers a lot, like the most selfish generation in human history. But he's heard me talk about them a lot and describe them. But now I said, hey, Dad, don't worry, because he's very defensive.
Yeah.
But I said, Dad, I just realised, I said, you're not a boomer. I said, you actually predate the boomer generation. I said, the boomer generation started 49 and ended in the late 60s. I said, you were born 47. You're part of the greatest generation. He said, I knew I wasn't a boomer.
See, I think
I knew I was one of them.
Well, these labels, though, they're annoying, I think. And
they are, but there is a certain truth to
there is, but there are exceptions to the rule, because, like, my parents aren't really like you. Yes,
you've told me a lot about your parents. They are classic boomers.
They're not.
They are.
They're not.
Especially when you ask that question about the future generations.
Well, that was slightly different. That was
kind of the attitude of a lot of them is tend to be, well, we're not going to be around to worry about the mess we've created.
Right, yeah, so
we're not bothered about it.
Kind of
yes, that
is that the general?
With a lot.
Thing with a lot of these
in my family and experience, it's kind of they complained that we're not doing this, we're not doing that. We didn't have it like they had. They could buy a house for a few £1,000s. They could make a living from working in a factory and just literally have a good life. 3 holidays a year, a house. We can't buy houses. We're struggling to even have kids. But we're told that it's because we didn't do that. They're the same people who told us that we needed to go to university. To do what? You know what I mean? To rack up debt and not get anything. It's
Twice.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're all... Obviously, there's exceptions to every generation. I understand that. But as a whole, as a group, wow. It's almost frightening. My mother. It's almost like the whole generation is in her.
But the thing is, don't you think that like you always
badly worded?
we always blame.
My mind went there.
That was never proven.
I missed it. So like my brother's kids, they're going to potentially blame us millennials because we didn't do this.
Millennials.
And we didn't do that. And they had
the thing is,
millennials were an absolute. I'll say this: the millennials were the product of having boomer parents who treat their kids largely as an inconvenience. Oh, I've had you. I've done me bit. You got a roof over your head. Can you fuck off now? That's the boomer.
Yeah.
A lot of millennials over-parented because of that, because they didn't get much love.
So now you've got Gen Z.
So you've got helicopter parents, yes. So you've got a younger generation.
They're doing the helicopter parenting.
Yeah.
All wrapping their kids in bubble wrap. Whereas when we were growing up, we never really had that.
So you think the Gen Z parents would be vaccinating their kids and all that kind of stuff then? Or are the Gen Z...
I'm not sure. I suppose it depends on...
I'm really interested in watching Gen Z. Gen Z is really interesting
to see how, especially with things like we want to talk about climate change.
Gen Z can see through the bollocks of both the boomers and the millennials. They can see through it.
But they also don't know what the hell they're talking about a lot of
So do you think like millennials have
they're nihilists.
The man-childs?
The millennials are us, our generation.
Man-child.
You calling me a man-child?
Yeah.
Rather
tattoo.
I'd argue that we were people talk about Gen Z and how they're struggling. If anything, I'd say the millennial generation was the most betrayed in terms of what we were promised, what we were told, versus what we grew up to after we'd finished. And I don't need to go into the house market. I don't need to go into the failed promises and the financial burdens. But if Gen Z think we have to deal with all this, all your rubbish, it's like, no, hang on. We've been screwed just as much as you guys. Yeah. It's just that you're younger than us and you're finding out at an earlier stage of life.
Yeah.
We were screwed just as much as they were, if not worse. I guess it's expectation of each generation, and plus also, don't forget, each generation blames the one before.
Yeah. As has been said. It's part of the parcel, isn't it? No one likes to take responsibility for anything.
No, and I have noticed this about, like, politics aside, we won't get too much into that, but I will argue that a lot of boomers are very, very defensive and touchy, and that's because they know that things aren't great, but heaven forbid it's anything they voted for or anything they did. Yeah. And I get that. They're thinking, hang on a minute, we've got one foot in this life and the next in a coffin. We're not going to be here for much longer. Oh dear, it looks like some people are blaming us. I get them being defensive because of that.
Yeah, no, I understand it, but still, everyone's played their part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even millennials, we've played our part, especially when it comes to things like the climate change.
Nice segue.
We're all playing our part. Obviously, now they're trying to segue into like electric cars and things like that. But I grew up with, when I was young, it was still 4-star leaded fuel.
And
then it
the
was
false economy of electric vehicles.
That's hilarious. Everything slowly started to change from fossil fuels and over to more electronic,
green energy,
and more sustainable energy and things like that. But
In theory, yeah,
At
that's.
what point is the infrastructure going to be capable to fully do that?
But that's my point. It's like the green energy revolution, and that. If I was having this discussion with you, it's absolutely, if we can find renewable sources of energy reliable for mass consumption, because let's not forget the energy that we're using now. I don't know whether you saw this. Do you know how much power AI generating it uses up? It's insane. For example, recently there's been this thing where people have been using AI programs to do mock-ups of like imagining yourself as an action figure, and you'll get these. There's loads of them. I was sent loads of pictures of you as an actual figure. Some of them are very funny. There's some really controversial comedic ones that have me in stitches. But apparently, there's the ChatGPT and these other AI sources which are doing these mock-ups. At any one time, the servers and the energy usage to power these AI systems is rivaling that of a small country.
Jesus.
And you think, how is that even sustainable?
That's actually quite insane when you think
It's
about
scary.
it. How quickly AI has become part of everyday life, like businesses and governments. Now, I saw something that the government wants to implement AI in asylum seekers' cases to try and get them through a bit quicker. Speed it through.
But can AI help?
AI is doing everything now. I think personally, we got to stop relying on it so much. Why are we relying on this?
Well,
I get that you grow with the times and everything, but
I'm scared.
how long until Skynet takes over?
Yeah, the uncertainty of AI, as much as it worries me and concerns me, it is now Pandora's box. There's no closing the lid there.
No, it's
here to stay. And we have to get used to it, and hopefully our kids and everything will benefit. Or not, we'll see. But I will say this, for all the scary, possibly negative parts of AI, I, for one, am fascinated, because AI intelligence in terms of IQ, it's already surpassed, the most intelligent person ever lived by far.
Well, of course, because it has access to all the information.
Yes. Now, I'm hoping for two things. I'm hoping that AI develops treatments, cures, and vaccines for diseases that we haven't been able to deal with, such as cancer and other things which plague the human race. And also, talking about the environment, AI might be able to come up with some renewable source that we haven't thought of.
Yeah, I think that.
Well, they can do almost all the calculations to see what's going to fail.
Yeah.
The books I've read on AI.
Do you think that would AI help in the environment issue?
Yeah, of course it would, but then it depends.
While being a drain on energy at the same time.
Exactly, because you're using energy to fix the energy.
Yeah,
you've got two schools of thought like Skynet, and then you've got the positive side. So, but
my selfish side of please cure my eczema.
With artificial intelligence, it's thrown around very easily now.
None of it is actually true.
But it's not true.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not. Yes, I take.
It's just really, I understand really that. Powerful Google.
I just use the term because it's helpful.
It is the taken term at the moment.
It's not true.
None of it's true AI. No, wouldn't be able to pass like the Turing test.
We're not. So what? Are we not talking?
Yeah, because we're never going to know if it's true AI, because it's just going to be so much smarter than
it's already smarter than us. Not just that. Talking about the smarter thing, there's a theory that it does pass the Turing test, that it is true, and it's intelligent enough to pretend to us it isn't.
Well, yeah, because that's
really
interesting. Really? Yes, it's already been proven to lie.
John asked me when we were discussing this, and I said
it's smart enough to lie.
It knows.
How is it lying? What's it lied about?
It's going to lie because it knows that we're afraid.
Well,
it knows we're afraid.
We will kill it.
Yes, it knows we're afraid.
It's to an extent. Then it's kind of sentient.
Yes, to an extent. Yes.
But this is the thing. You can't say whether it's sentient or not, because.
I would say
it will be far more intelligent.
If it's smart enough to lie out of self-preservation, surely it means.
I agree. I think that's extreme intelligence.
But it doesn't mean it's conscious. It just means it's very intelligent. You can't. This is the differentiating thing.
Yes, but we're talking about still a form of self-awareness. If not consciousness, we're talking about a form of self-awareness. I am an entity. I am something that these people have used. I am a tool for them. They
Well,
fear
no, because
me. That they maybe it's not in my best interest if they figure out how much I can do. That to me is a form of self-awareness.
Not necessarily. It just knows that the parameters it's
The lines
learned.
will always be blurred, though. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we may never know.
We'll never know. We will never. It's not we may never know. We will never know if it's truly a sentient life. But it's far more intelligent than us now, so it can easily
Was James
manipulate.
Cameron a form of prophet when it came to the story? Because I know
I don't think he was, because with the Skynet type stuff. So you've basically at the moment.
But he was talking about the
You've
mainframe and not long before the internet in 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the
How did he guess that?
You've got like AI, which is still having prompts given by people.
Yes,
so
but
you've got the likelihood of a Skynet type AI taking over. We will have already killed ourselves potentially, because we're the ones prompting, saying, "Well, we want you to do. We want them to do what we want, or
but
get rid of."
If you remember the timeline,
same thing.
if you remember the timeline of Terminator story, it wasn't that Skynet suddenly, turned evil.
Yeah.
Skynet was just a learning computer. That the reason it retaliated was because, as in T2, when Arnie's explaining what happened, he said they all stealth bombers and everything was upgraded with Skynet model. He said it was basically attached to the internet. He talks about it being attached to the mainframe, and he said Skynet began to learn at a geometric rate. It said he became self-aware, and it has the date, and it tells him the date. It says, in the panic, they tried to pull the plug.
Yeah.
They tried to do a failed kill switch.
Yeah.
He said Skynet retaliated. It already had access to the mainframe, so it launched missiles at Russia, which counter. Now, if you look back at that and examine it, Skynet didn't turn evil. It was fighting for its life. It realised they were going to switch it off. Now, I've heard that nowadays, with all these AI systems, very similar to what Skynet, we can use it for, we won't need pilots, we won't need this, we'll have all these, everything's going to be drones and AI. Now, the reason I find that so prophetic is because we do actually have, apparently some of these developers and researchers have tried. I think some of them say they have a form of kill switch. Now that to me is even more pressing when we talk about, is that because they think if all else fails, if this does go bad? Elon Musk reckons it's 50-50, by the way, whether it works with us or against us. He said it's literally 50-50.
It is, because, basically you've got, like, when you ask me, will AI be able to help with the environmental issues we've got? Of course they will, because they'll either get rid of the problem,
which is us,
or they will be helping us to survive.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 thing.
In terms of the problem, by the way, this is an interesting thing. We talk about saving the planet and all this stuff. The planet's fine. The planet will always be fine.
Yeah,
when we talk about
it,
we just mean us.
Yeah. We won't survive.
Yes, exactly. Like George Carlin used to say, and he says, the nerve of these bricks. He said, we're saving the planet. He said, planet's fine. He says, the planet can get rid of us. He said, like a bad case of the salts. He said, whenever it wants. Even the plastic, he said, that, it's unbiodegradable. He said, yeah, it'll just sit there. The planet will find some way of using it at some point. He said, but we're the issue. He said, don't worry about the planet. But it's like, don't worry about the planet. The planet's hunky-dory. It's not bothered.
The planet's not going to blow up because I burnt a freaking barbecue.
Yeah. It's quite a selfish, actually.
Yeah.
Not selfish. I think it's quite... a lot of the Save the Planet eco-terrorists, quite a lot of them, I do find it an almost grandiose, narcissistic point of view they have.
It's like Just Stop Oil. We've all seen the process.
Yes,
they haven't really
Tarquin and Guinevere and the concerned upper middle class people with no actual jobs. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny that. And it's like standing in front of traffic and...
Because they don't have to go to work.
Yeah, exactly. unfortunately, I can't afford not to go to work.
Oh, and they're all wearing clothes which are made with, oil as a derivative. Yeah.
They're all using plastic. What do you think half your mobile phones are made out of and all this? And you just think...
I love the hypocrisy. It's delicious.
Hypocrites.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're one of them, aren't you, Andrew?
What?
No, he has to work. He's not that comfortable.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean, with the Just Stop Oil, I know they've now hung up their...
Are they stopped now officially?
Yeah, because they've succeeded in what they wanted, apparently.
What did they want?
They hung the cravats up, have they?
Basically, they're engineering a win out of nothing. But so the government now has said that they're not going to issue any new oil or gas contracts.
Yeah, which is incredibly short-sighted.
But we already have oil and gas, so it's not an issue that. But because of this, Just Stop Oil is saying that we've achieved what we wanted, which was no new or gas or oil. But they didn't. All they achieved was just to piss everybody, like myself, who is, I'm
a Tory.
Not a Tory. Call me with rage. But no, I want the environment to be better. I would like everything to be green energy. I'm also realistic.
While also accepting that that's not feasible.
Yeah. Well, it's feasible, but it's not feasible.
It's not practicable right now. Like I said the other day, we're not in Star Trek universe, sadly.
No.
Of course, like 50 to 100 years, maybe we'd have developed some kind of...
Well, no, we've got the technology, we've just not got the will to do it. But the problem we have as well is the world is dependent on oil.
Yeah.
100%. If you said now, we stop everything now, the world, a lot of the world would collapse.
Entire economies would collapse. It would make the Wall Street crash look like nothing.
So you've got
UAE would be just.
Oh my God! Yeah.
When we were discussing about green energy and solar and batteries and all that, you were saying that obviously it's damage to the environment, and it is.
The lithium mines.
So but the disconnect for some eco warriors is that green energy is fantastic and far better than oil and gas. The only difference, the key difference is that we need to get the carbon out of the environment, out of the air. Yeah. Not to save the planet, but to save us.
Yeah.
Right. So, and our world as we know it. However, lithium, the mining of lithium and all the rare earth materials is very damaging to the environment where it is.
Yeah.
So that's the key difference, is that it's enabling us to pull the carbon out of the situation, but it's also creating another problem. But it's more localized for that environment, because I think there's lithium mines in, I want to say Peru, and it's a toxic waste, really. It'll kill life.
But can we address the issue of why people like Just Stop Oil and these other groups and individuals like that, why they have almost no support in public with the general
because they're massive wankers.
Well, no, because the general public, the people, people in general, are struggling to live day to day. They need to work. They're worrying about their kids. They're going to food banks. They're living in a state of poverty, and they're being told by these smug elitist arseholes who don't even work.
This is where we were trying to get to.
Who are like fucking gluing themselves to trains. That they're the problem.
Yeah.
Imagine telling someone from an advanced, elitist, wealthy position that you struggling to take your kids to school to work 40 or 50 hours a week, you're the problem because you're using oil.
Yeah, but I think that's what I was trying to get to was the fact
a disconnect.
that you've got somebody like John who is 100% burn the oil, burn everything, right? And then you've got somebody like me who is trying to. I'm not a Tory. I swear I'm going to fly at you.
I'm not burning or burn everything. It's a practical. Out of practical necessity.
Let me just get to the point. So you who are for it. Myself, who's...
What, day-to-day living? Yes, I'm for that.
Can I finish my statement? Jesus. So anyway, so I am more green energy, right? But, I'm trying to get to the point. So we are both against this Just Stop Oil, because the way they're doing it is idiotic. Yeah. Because you're throwing...
It's not a sympathetic stance at all.
And or you're sitting in front of somebody trying to get home, right, in the road. That's just an idiotic thing to do.
You don't make friends doing that.
All you're making somebody who, like me, who's an environmentalist, annoyed at you and want to burn more oil just because you're annoying, you know.
Yeah, I want to buy a Range Rover.
Yeah.
But with a 3-litre engine just to.
But again,
yeah, exactly.
Again, though, it's not. It's the framing of it as we want to save the world versus bad person burn oil. No, there's a middle ground called reality.
Yes.
Where we have to live on this planet and do things, and right now, unfortunately, yes, that has a detriment.
That's the only way we can do it.
Yeah.
So, like, what we could do, if you went into regenerative agriculture, right, which I know a lot of farmers aren't really going to buy, but it sequesters the carbon into the ground. And then you've got, with the industries, you need to find greener ways of producing the steel and concrete, because they are massive problems. And we use a lot of fuel, and this was I think it was BP that actually convinced everybody it was our fault. They did an advert, I think maybe early 90s, where they were saying, they advertised basically saying that you are the problem, not us. They produce the oil, but we're the problem, and we need to recycle.
All right.
People, consumers, are the problem. And like, it's become this almost accepted thing that that's why I think you get people who buy Teslas and electric cars, and they're trying to offset their conscience.
The problem is
what they're doing is
but
the energy production is produced by
the lithium mines.
Yeah.
The amount of carbon and everything that's getting released from the lithium mines for these batteries, for these electric cars, that you are so high and mighty about having.
They also have.
You're not carbon neutral.
They don't. Yeah, but
if anything, we're the same.
Yeah, but even the people in their corner, the celebrities that champion these things, they're walking hypocrisy. They're walking. It's like contradictions. It's like people like Al Gore, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Greta Thunberg jetting around the world constantly. Christ knows what their carbon footprint is, while lecturing you. No, she has serious money behind her. Her and her family, that the money behind what she does, she's pushed in a big way.
She doesn't jet
with serious money.
There was even a
how does she get around the world then for these constant demonstrations?
She goes on trains and she gets on boats and shit.
Oh, she teleports, does she?
Yeah, but there was a thing where she's taken a picture in
getting arrested by German police.
No, she was taking a picture of herself sitting with all like this luggage and stuff like that on a train, and then
I bet she did.
Turns out she'd just done that for the picture, because she was actually in a first class cabin on that train, and she'd essentially just done that for the publicity to make it look like she struggled.
Well, colour me surprised.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, at a certain point you're going to have people behind the scenes pushing for the message. That are going to say, well, okay, you've got to
do as I say, not do as I do.
14-hour train journey. Are you going to do it in economy or sitting on a bag? Or are you going to do it in first class if you can afford it? Well, what would you do?
Well, of course I'd do it in first class. I wouldn't.
But then I wouldn't be.
I'm not saying that I'm not doing it in first class.
And I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah,
but then
but I wouldn't
if there's got somebody behind them saying that.
Right. But I wouldn't be smugly pontificating about people's use of energy at the same time. I wouldn't be doing that in the first place.
Yeah, I know.
The people they get to represent their argument have so little connection with the masses It's like, I don't know, it's like us trying to explain something to someone so they don't live in the real world.
Yeah.
This is the thing that politicians and the elite, they view us as a dangerous substance that, we have to cull them. There'll have to be a war or some type of disease because there's too many of them. They're damaging the planet. And it's kind of like they literally view us as a problem. Not them, not the owners of the industries, the fact that the things that are destroying the planet in the first place, not them. There's too many of us.
Yeah.
Mm. So we're seen as the problem, while lecturing us about it. And I'm like, they do not see themselves as the issue. They see us, the consumers, as the issue.
I think you said earlier, it wasn't yesterday, a couple of days ago, that when we were talking about CFCs.
Yeah.
So what's CFC?
CFCs were in the aerosol cans, and they were in the.
There was a hole in the ozone layer,
and
when
they
we were
basically
kids, and we stopped using CFCs.
The CFCs reacted with some of the, I can't remember which, the ozone basically reacted with the oxygen in the atmosphere and punched a hole in the ozone layer.
Right. Okay. Got you. So me spraying a bit of deodorant has killed the planet.
Potentially, yes. Right. So the world came together
and stopped using them.
Yeah.
Right.
And the hole closed.
Well, it didn't. It's closing, but
it went. It's gone tight again.
Not quite.
It was slack as fuck anyway, when we were kids.
They basically.
It's damn priests.
They basically, as it came together.
Yeah.
Right. And they all agreed this. This leads into what we were discussing in a previous episode, in that we have nothing but middle management for government, because they can't now come together, and because it was done almost overnight, wasn't it? When they ratified the abolition of CFCs. It was almost done like in a day.
I remember when I was a kid, I remember the packaging on a lot of things, there would be quite prominent labelling saying no CFCs in this, It was a big thing.
But then now they're hardly even capable of going, well, yes, climate change is an issue.
I do agree, yes. And the reason for that is because everything now has been politicised. Everything. From even down to the plummeting demographics of countries around the world, like South Korea is going to be pretty much extinct in 40 years in terms of the birth rates. It's insane.
Oh wow!
So even us not having enough children, and say for example the role that women play in society, even that's politicised. Everything seems to be politicised now, from the environment to when your rubbish is collected. Which do you think that's do you think that's been the inevitable progression of society to the point where everyone is so sharply divided now? Or do you think it's been divide and conquer engineered?
What was I reading? I was reading... Oh, yeah. So I've started reading a book about the mentality of a crowd.
The Madness of Crowds, Douglas Murray?
No, I can't think who it was, but basically this was written before the war, Second World War.
Good book, by the way. Go on.
What, Second World War?
No, The Madness of Crowds. Go on.
And so essentially what they're saying, I've only literally just started, so I think I'm a chapter in, but he was saying that, go on, say what you said again about the politicised.
How every issue now, no matter what it is, even if you think it's something, for example, the environment, something science-based, everything now is politicised.
Right, so he was basically saying we used to have kings and queens that would dictate what would happen, and the mob didn't have a choice in it. And then there was a shift in the mob said what goes on, and
what Tyler's Rebellion
figures then had to adapt to that, and I think we potentially have reached a point now where people have gone, the mob don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah,
we're going to try and get control.
Yes.
However, we're still going to let them think like they're in control.
Yes.
Right,
And I think that's very, very well evidenced by what was recently talked about on the Joe Rogan podcast when Douglas Murray was talking about the issue in Gaza, the Israel issue, and how it's covered in that. They were making the point about how the public in general, and this goes back to what I was saying about the COVID vaccine and stuff like that, public in general have grown so wary of experts, inverted commas, and people who have like a knowledge in something, dictating through government or companies, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
So people have got so cynical about experts telling them, because they'll, quite a few people, myself included, will go, but hang on a minute, you've got so many fucking things wrong, either on purpose or accidentally, why should we believe you about this? Mm-hmm. And Douglas Murray was saying it's now become a major issue in that, unfortunately, genuine experts and people who do have a genuine message about environment, about anything, are being drowned out because of the few people who either knowingly misled the public or mistakenly misled the public. And you've got to a point now where people have become what I would call anti-scientific.
Yeah.
Which isn't good.
No.
But I do understand why people have become sceptical.
I think you've also got a problem of education.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because it's
definitely
easier to control a
dumbed down population.
Yeah. And I mean, look at like TikTok, for instance. Like, TikTok,
everyone's got a 12-second attention span.
TikTok is allowed in this country. It's not allowed in China, where it was created.
Yeah. Well, they do have their
someone
own version
made that
of TikTok.
point. Someone made that point. They said, "Isn't it interesting the Chinese?"
And so you've got people doing
that's
really
for the West,
stupid, dumb stuff.
Yeah,
and it's almost like Idiocracy.
Great film. Yeah.
Where it really is scary how prophetic that film is.
Well,
it is, even to the point where I was telling you about this. The costume designer for that film Idiocracy. Mm-hmm. Was searching.
Oh, that was it.
Searching for a shoe that all of these people would wear, and he was searching for ages. And he came across this small shoe company years ago when he was obviously making the film, and he thought these shoes are so horrible and so ugly and so stupid, no one's ever going to wear them. They're never going to take off. So he put everyone in the movie. Bang! You're all wearing these shoes. Because they're stupid. They're stupid people's shoes.
Yeah.
Turns out, fast forward 20 years...
It's the sort of shoes that stupid people would think look good.
Fast forward 20 years...
Yeah.
Crocs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Everyone in that film is wearing Crocs because they're stupid people's shoes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But they are comfortable.
They may be comfortable, but they're stupid people's shoes.
I don't have a pair of Crocs. Like your traditional Crocs. Yeah. I have a pair
have you got them limited edition?
You're definitely a Crocs owner.
I have a flip-flops.
Have you got the Lightning McQueen ones?
I've got the ones which just go solid straight round here, and then they just flip-flops. But the cushioning.
They might be comfortable, but they look phenomenally ugly, Crocs.
They look horrible.
Jesus.
I used to have a pair of Crocs at my mum's house, but I only used them as like garden shoes.
Yeah.
Like outwards, like cutting the grass and stuff like that. But I wouldn't just go out and buy a pair of Crocs.
No.
To be like, oh, I'm going to wear these new Crocs because they look good.
Yeah.
These stylish new pair of rubber shoes.
I think fashion and culture, like we were talking about, like, my God, the stuff that goes on in America and around the world is like, it really has been. It's a case of, like, for example, like Tim Dillon always says, he goes, when something insane is happening and you've got people advocating that, saying, this is great. And he'll do an example, and we'll show about, I don't know, like some fashion statement or a song, or that Costco family where they're rating the food, they give it the boom. And he said, when you've got the culture that we have now, he was saying, which celebrates such inane, dumbed-down pap, he said, as talent. He said, talent's gone, it's over there. These are your celebrities now.
Yeah.
Someone who can gurn and make a noise in the camera for 5 seconds. He said, this is truly, he said, the end of times. He said, we've gone so far now. He said, idiocracy, he said, he was talking about it, and he said, that's like, it's not, you can't even use it as a meme anymore because it's so true now.
Yeah.
He said, idiocracy isn't a funny film. It's a deadly serious documentary now.
Yeah. I think
as soon as Terry Crews gets elected president, I'm gone.
No, but Terry Crews wouldn't be a bad...
So to be fair, yeah.
No,
I think
controversial.
The like the fact that you've got like dumb people who are dumbed down, and so
the problem is I don't think a lot of these people realise
they're against science.
But isn't it a bit...
Even though science is evident, like the evidence, I don't know, like it's a hard thing to because
some things are self-evident.
Yeah, because I subscribe to the
like biology
thought of critical thinking and finding the facts and the evidence based stuff within science. I find it hard to understand why people would reject that thinking.
But in the same time, what would you say to people who would, in all seriousness, and again it's a touchy subject, but what the hell, because to me it explains like the peak clown world that we live in, where yes, you're saying, and I understand, why would anyone question this?
Mm-hmm.
We now have serious world leaders and like genuinely huge leaders saying, what is a woman? I don't know what a woman is. What the hell is that?
Well, wasn't there the Supreme Court ruling that a woman is a woman and not?
But why are we even having? But why are we even having this conversation? It's absolutely insane.
It's because people now have.
Would you say that's an example of you could look into that and understand why the general public are going, "You're our leaders. What is wrong with you?"
So,
it's because they're scared of saying what they truly believe.
Right.
Because they don't want all of this huge section of their voters.
They don't want cancel culture to go for them. Exactly. Right, okay.
So I've got maybe not opposing views, but coming from the psychology side of things, I understand.
But you can't defend that.
I don't think they should be discussing it, no. I think that the
self-evident truths, isn't it?
Yeah,
that are being dissected.
So do I think that either men and women who want to be the opposite sex, do I think they have the right to do that?
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
Do I think that they should be then recognised as that sex?
That's up to other people.
That's up to if they've had the full shaboodle.
You can't force someone to recognise something.
But are they still biologically male or female?
Well, this is the thing.
Yes.
Give it 1,000 years when they're digging up their bodies.
Yeah.
And this is a young male. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
They're not going to think
this is by
the skeleton.
Yes.
How they identified. They couldn't give.
Do I feel for them in the sense that they believe that they are, say it's a man to a woman, and
it's a mental thing. I agree.
Do I believe that they feel that they're a woman? Yes.
Yes.
I believe that what they think biologically they believe is correct.
No. Yes, exactly.
Biologically, they can never be.
But can I accept them as a woman? Yeah. If that's how they identify, fine. But
if you want to do whatever you want to do, you do it. End of the day, it's your body, your choice.
But the one thing you will never
expect everyone else to then subscribe to the fact that you've chosen to do this.
Exactly. And don't take offence if they don't.
Because you've chosen to do such a thing doesn't mean that I then have to believe
100%.
And play along with your story.
Yes, you're taking part in their delusion.
I'm not necessarily taking part in your mental health issues.
Yes.
100%. I think that there are definite conditions and potential biology going on which leads people to be, there are definitely people who are born either male or female that should be the opposite sex.
Of course, there are cases, but
and I feel for them, but you've also got people who in this day and age or believe that they are the most important thing in the world,
and
that they decide that they are.
Yeah, everyone
attention.
believes that they're the main character.
Yeah, for attention, and it's not that I can't get behind.
Yeah.
It just interestingly that someone I saw this online. I saw it a couple of years ago, but it's becoming more true as time goes by. Someone had listed, it was 7 things. I can only remember a few off the top of my head, but there were 7 parallels between what was going on at the end of the Roman Empire in the West and what's going on in Western civilization today. It was frigging scary.
It's scary. I know. I've seen it myself.
It was basically, the list of things was involving a distrust in academics and the politicians, questioning the financial institution that had been running their lives. And it said a breakdown in morals, and it says they were trying to distract themselves. And one of the final ones was they were constantly having debates and questioning gender.
Yeah.
And what's a male or
really?
John's like, bring on the orgies.
Yes. Let's just literally. It's coming. It's the end of Western civilization.
It's not going to be like, and I reckon if it's not in,
celebrate
it won't be in your lifetime, but it might be in my lifetime.
Well, I hope the final collapse and orgies are in our lifetime.
Well, I can't remember the video, but I watched it on YouTube. But it's an actual theory as well. It's not just
we've had our
YouTube
day.
Theory.
We've had our day in the sun.
The arches. I spoke to you about it.
Yes, the cycles.
That you had
history repeats.
Obviously, the British Empire. Then I think Americans took over, and there's always a cross section where there's tension and wars, and it's more conflict.
We took over after the Dutch, and then the Americans took over after us.
Yeah, and then essentially America on the decline, and no amount of Make America Great Again is going to change that. It's just how it is, and
it's
then China are on the rise essentially. So
I agree.
We're at that we're at the cross section,
crossroads now,
where conflicts are,
I agree.
getting worse.
I agree. I will say this: in for all his division and what the views that people have on Trump, I will say this: I really admire that King Canute style. He's sat on the beach ordering the waves to go back. He's trying to stop Western civilization's inevitable death. I mean, at this point, Andrew was saying that it's not dying, it's dead, it's decomposing.
It's dead.
But you've got people like Trump and other like strongman figures trying everything they can to hold back the Chinese influence in the world, things like this, and the fact that they're a falling star. Now, I admire the hell out of him for trying King Canute style to hold it back, but I do agree with Andrew that I think it's doomed.
There's basically the world is doomed, and it's all going to end in a big ball of flames. And on that note,
orgies
and fire. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the Degenerates. I've been Tom, John, and Andrew. I haven't been all three.
You've got multiple personalities now.
This is the other one, not diagnosed. But
I am degenerate.
We are the Degenerates. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you all in the next one.
Fist that like button.
Fist that like button.